I'm Dan Drake. This is Front Up on Geno TV and Channel 99. Our guest is Jim Lentowski, the Executive Director of the Conservation Foundation. Nice to see you again. Thanks for coming back. One of the reasons the first reason I wanted to have you on was to just spend a couple of minutes talking about Tom Larrabee, you're the director of the Cranberry Bog and a long-time conservation
60 years of commitment over there at the Milestone Cranberry Bog, and if it weren't for Tom and later on Roy Larson, who became involved on behalf of the foundation, cranberries would have long since disappeared from Nantucket.
Well, he died in an unfortunate accident a couple of months ago.
He did.
And in nature, which he loved the best.
Doing one of the things that he loved the most, which was second to cranberries, which was looking for arrowheads.
We're looking for arrowheads, but I also have to interject that I remember my father years ago, and I hadn't thought of this in years until I heard about Tom, telling us as kids that there was quicksand around Hummock Pond.
Pretty dangerous situation, and people should always be forewarned that when the ponds are drained, the Sacajah Pond and Hummock Pond in the spring, the worst place you want to be is in the middle of the creek. But you know, Tom's lust for arrowheads was what drew him there.
Well, that's it's not a bad avocation.
It's a great way for him to get out into nature, and he had this incredible eye towards spotting arrowheads that you'd walk down one of the Middlemore roads, and he'd bend over and you'd say, "What is that?" He says, "I just found another one."
I had a cousin here who was allegedly so bent over from looking at arrowheads, but for looking for arrowheads. Anyway, he was a great guy.
Oh, we miss him. We miss him a whole lot. And this past week, I think, as a testimony to the way the community loved Tom Larrabee, we had an event, or the family had an event out there at the Milestone Cranberry Bog, and well over 500 people showed up just to pay their respects. It was a really moving moment, and I made a comment during my brief comments out there that I had not seen so many native Nantucketers in one place at the same time in a very long time. And again, it was the community that Tom grew up in was coming out to say thank you, Tom. Absolutely.
That's great. Well, he will be missed, as you say, but we move on too.
Yep, absolutely.
Another thing that I wanted to talk about, one of your colleagues, one of the members of the board, I should remember who, but I can't, was on a couple of years ago to talk about the beginning of your effort at fire prevention and fire prevention education.
Especially at this time of the year when people are coming back and doing things around their own properties, getting ready for entertaining on their properties during the summer, being careful, we hope, with barbecues. We've got lots of neighbors now that back up to conservation land all over, whether it's the foundation's property or other land bank property and Mass Audubon property, but paying close attention to the fact that flammable materials outside sometimes get away. We had one incident back in March where one of our neighbors in the Tatakama Road area was careless about using open fire, and what was on the foundation's property was actually an encroachment on the foundation's property, but that resulted in a 35-acre fire that was quite difficult to put out. Fortunately, nearby was some of the evidence of the foundation's wildfire risk reduction efforts. We started about 5 years ago with a large machine that we were able to purchase as a result of a gift to the foundation.
That's it, right?
That's it. That's called the Fecon. That machine is a forestry mulcher, and it can come down on top of an oak tree the way I've never seen a piece of equipment do it. We've tried lots of gear over the years to try and manage our open spaces, but in the case of the Fecon, it methodically goes across the moors under the able operations of Dave Visco, who has fallen in love with this piece of equipment, and he just spends day in and day out. Dream. Oh my goodness, I can't imagine. But to date, we've probably mowed fire breaks in the middle moors, primarily on foundation properties. This is all part of a well-considered plan that has been approved by the state, and the effort has in mind that it will protect the major residential neighborhoods along the north side of our properties on the Pulpus Road. And if people go out the Alta Rock Road these days, they're going to see a completely different scene that they probably have not seen in recent years with the clearing that's taken place. The fire breaks there now cover a length of about 10 miles, and on average they're about 300 feet wide. And so with the idea that if a fire during the summer months, which is going to be driven by a southwest wind, takes place, and it's probably not if, it's probably when. Nantucket has had some major fires over the years, and we're responding in part to that and in part to the fact that all these properties that we own in the middle of the island, 3,500 acres there, which is open to the public, and public goes wandering out there in the days when everybody had a cigarette in their hand. I used to live in fear that one of these would go off into the scrub oak and we'd wake up with a major forest fire on our hands, so a major wildfire on our hands. But Nantucket has had fires of the magnitude of 5,000 acres.
So, for example, when you cut it, this is a map of your properties, and we'll come back to that in a minute. But you've cut a big area a number of years ago off the Sconset Road to the left.
The Serengeti.
The Serengeti,
Yep.
Which you did as
that
part
was
of,
a totally different reason.
Different reason. And then you've cut a piece now along the left side of the Matticat Road just before you get to the landfill.
Right, it looks like a park almost.
It almost does, except it's hard to see from the road.
Well, we're going to work on that this coming winter too.
But so that's done for different reasons and with different.
Actually, the piece right next to the landfill is for the purpose of fire protection, and it was by coincidence shortly after we cut that there was a major fire in the construction debris building, and it would have spread off in the direction where the fire break was. Part of this is to enable the fire department to have safer access and to give them some distance between where the fire is coming from and their equipment.
All right, Gino, before we get to that, I want to just show this brochure that the Conservation Foundation has done along with the fire department.
Watch your hands.
To educate.
Just hold it there like that.
Yeah. To educate the public on what they can do around their house to keep Nantucket safe from wildfires.
Liz Shannon, who is lieutenant at the fire department, and I worked on this brochure a couple of years ago, and it has just the basics of common sense things to do, and copies are available either at the foundation or at the fire department. It's also up on the fire department's website.
Good. Well, I recommend that people go get it.
Absolutely.
Use it, learn something from it. Now, let's get back to the map.
The map.
The map.
And I should point out that all the dark brown areas on the map are foundation-owned properties. And for those who aren't familiar with the foundation, the foundation's logo posts, which are scattered around the island, maroon posts with the seagull and wave logo on top of them, all are open to the public for their enjoyment, with limitation.
What percentage of the island does the Conservation Foundation
Just
own?
shy of 30%.
Just shy of 30%.
Yeah, about 9,000 acres that has been, this was an effort that started in 1963. It's been going on for 50 plus years now. It is a privately funded effort. It's not part of the town's Land Bank Commission, or Mass Audubon has a presence here on the island also, and the trustees of reservations. There are a lot of organizations that work hand in hand on a day-to-day basis to make sure that Nantucket's uniqueness survives.
What percentage of the island altogether is in conservation?
Just shy of 50%.
Just shy of 50%.
And that does not include the golf courses, because it's not truly protected land, or it's available for public use in some cases, but not open to the public generally.
In theory, could the Conservation Foundation sell its land?
The foundation's credibility
exists,
and because we're supported by voluntary contributions, obviously people would have something strong to say about that. But the tax laws are really in part what controls that. When a person makes a gift of land to the foundation, it's valued on the basis of what it's available for on the open market. And so if it were heavily restricted land,
well, it's like a museum deaccessioning paintings or
exactly.
something. And
we have a 25-member board of trustees plus a group of about 20 advisors who've been on the board for at least a dozen years each. And so those people are the ones that control the operations of the organization.
Looking forward, are there properties still on the island that the foundation views as critical for conservation
You know, in
purposes?
preparation, you gave me a hint as to what you were
Yeah.
going to be asking, and in preparation for that, I went back. It was 2012 that we got involved with the last major acquisition, which was the Norwood Farm out
And
in
before that,
Pulpus.
the last major one was the
UMass Field Station. That was
right.
about 10 years before
Right.
that. And there really hasn't been much land acquisition activity. We're not in the business of purchasing land if we can avoid doing so, but those two
But
parcels.
are there pieces that you together, the Conservation Foundation, or you with the land bank, have identified that are still out there that you think, under best possible circumstances,
Good-
should be protected?
Good question. 10 years ago, 11 years ago, we sat down with our colleagues at the other organizations and did a thorough analysis of the whole island and the lands that we felt needed protection. We're basically there.
Right.
And the Land Bank Commission's in a little different situation because they have resources to be able to go out and take advantage of
And
opportunities that come up.
they have a different charter.
Different mission of,
Right.
in part, some recreational activities, whereas the foundation is in the business of protecting open space. The last acquisition that we had was the remaining parcel, a 12-acre parcel of the Norwood Farm right on Pulpus Road, and I think that's it for a while. Land values are just so outrageously
Well, yeah, but
high now.
I'm even aside from land values, just the importance
Right.
of a piece of property.
I
from the
can't
co-
speak for our colleague organizations.
But from your perspective,
From
it's
our
about
perspective,
down.
we're about done. And we've shifted, we started shifting about 7, 8 years ago into the management phase of our property, heavily committed to a science staff that is out
You
there
read my
year-round.
mind. This was the next question.
Yeah, we have a 4-member year-round science group that goes out there and monitors our properties, goes out and assesses what resources that are out there that need particular attention. And then that gets written up as a management plan. It gets submitted to the appropriate agencies for approval, if it's the Conservation Commission, if it involves work around wetlands, or if it's the State Natural Heritage Program. And then that program is then given to our management team, which we always get a kick out of the fact that we've got 3.5 guys that take care of 9,000 acres.
Right.
So they've got a
Finally, let's talk about Lyme
ticks.
disease.
One of my-
Ticks and Lyme disease.
one of my favorite topics, having been a patient of many cases of Lyme disease and of babesiosis. This is a very serious issue on Nantucket, and I think people, particularly our summer visitors, need to learn as much as they can. The Board of Health has a good informational site on its website. Foundation's website also has a lot of information. It's a serious thing. If you have a tick bite and that tick's been attached for more than 24 hours, you run the risk, if that tick is infected with one of several diseases, of contracting a disease. And so it's worth, at the end of the day, if you've been out in nature, if you've been out on the beach walking through the beach grass, if you've been down the path at Sanford Farm and brushing against the tall shrubs.
Or grass,
and,
even
yeah,
grass, the tall grass.
it's worth spending a few minutes looking for these things that are so tiny that they defy finding them on your body, but you have to look hard. They're the size of a poppy seed. And
I had one a couple weeks ago. Fortunately, I got it in time.
And if you're pulling a tick out, make sure you use very pointy tweezers, get down as close as you can to the skin, and gently tug that tick out. And keep an eye on that site.
Keep it. Keep the tick if you
Yeah,
can. Put it on
yeah.
a piece of tape or
Yeah,
something. And take
good-
it with you when you go.
Good
there.
evidence, and if you start feeling feverish, or if you develop a rash at the site of the bite or someplace else on your body, make sure you get yourself to a doctor.
Yeah, it's a.
And wear light-colored clothing when you're out there.
And check your
You'll
kids.
always see me
Check
in
your
khaki
ki-
pants
yeah.
for that reason.
Check your kids.
Kids and the dogs.
Kids and the dogs.
Kids and the dogs and the cats. The cats go outside, collect the ticks, jump up on the bed, and they're immaculate about how they keep themselves clean. And typically they'll brush off a tick and drop it on your bed, and
Yeah.
tick may find you.
My son got Lyme disease the year before it was discovered by picking ticks off
Off
from
the
around
dog.
the eyes of the cat.
Oh, the cat.
Yeah.
Cat.
So, anyway, well, Jim, thank you for this. You've shared a lot of information with us.
Terrific. It's a
been
pleasure to
great,
be here.
and
Thanks
I
for having
appreciate
us
Jim
in.
Lentowski from the Conservation
Be
Foundation.
good.
Thank
Have
you.
a great summer.